In second, yeah, it was basically the middle of second year, I started to develop anorexia nervosa. Um, there was a lot of instability in my life. My parents were getting divorced at the time. We moved house. We were moving house. And then within the space of a week, my parents had completely got divorced. My house had been sold, and were moving out of the house, and I was still at uni. So I had the whole stress of uni, and I still don't know what I wanted to do. And did I want to do pharmacy? Did I not want to do pharmacy? And then my granddad also died that same week. So, and I had uni exams. So it was just a lot of stress all at once. And that was basically just caused me to deteriorate even more. And it was a massive struggle for me. And it took me quite a while. I remember I went to see a therapist at one point, and I basically gave her my whole, life story, and was explaining the things that I was going through. And I remember her sitting there, and she went, "Yeah, that's really bad." And she didn't offer me any more advice. She was like, "Yeah, that's really bad." And obviously I'm sat there and I'm like, yeah, it's really bad. And that kind of put me off therapy and counseling for a while. And I was like, okay, so things are bad then. In my head, I was like, so things are bad. And what I thought was going to help me didn't. And I ended up seeing a specialist, and that was my third counsellor, and she taught me so many techniques, and she honestly just completely changed my life and my outlook. It took me such a long time to gain back the weight, but the weight was much more of a symptom. It was a side effect. It was the result of the way that my mind was working, and the unhappiness that I felt, and the stress, and the not feeling good enough, and the uncertainty and the instability. And I basically had to reflect a lot on how I was feeling. If I was feeling a certain emotion, why was I feeling that? What past experiences had caused me to feel that? And was that feeling right? Was it caused by something else? Should I have that emotion towards myself, towards the situation? And so I, from that, now do a lot of reflection. And if I'm feeling a certain way, I stop myself and I'm like, okay, why are you feeling like this? How do I self-soothe? So I've done a lot of self-soothing, a lot of sitting with myself through these emotions, which is incredibly uncomfortable. And I know if anyone listening has done it or is thinking about, trying to help their mental health, sometimes you have to sit through this discomfort of emotion and really read yourself. And it's so uncomfortable. Like sometimes it like physically hurts. It's a hard one to describe, but you basically just have to analyze yourself and why you're feeling a certain way, and just take a step back from that emotion and figure out whether or not you need to be feeling that, and just find the positives in things, so much more. And it's like now on a daily basis, I'll go for a walk, and things that I used to be like, oh, I don't want to. It's just finding that little thing in that moment that can cause you to light up a little bit inside. So it's whether like you look at the sky and it looks nice, or like there's a certain lyric in a song, or just smiling at someone else and them smiling back at you, it can have such a positive impact. And so it's been really transformative the past year of my life, the way that I see the world and see the importance of spending time with myself and on myself. It's just, I'm almost like a different person. I feel like through uni, I'm now this third person at the end of it.
Interesting. And thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And obviously, that must have been really challenging to go through in the midst of trying to study, and obviously has quite a big impact, or had quite a big impact on your thoughts on career and what you wanted to do, and maybe clouded your judgment to some extent.
Yeah.
Reflective practice is, I think it's a game changer. I think also we should all be much more compassionate towards ourselves. And I've been talking about this quite a bit on Instagram as well, because I've discovered I'm really mean to myself.
Oh, so
I really am.
I put so much pressure on myself, and
Yeah.
I'm so judgmental of myself, and I'm always like, okay, I'm not doing enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not performing enough, I'm not productive enough. And you can just bog yourself down so much that you don't see the things that you're actually succeeding in, or the little things that you do in the day that are so great.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it's, I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of students, a lot of pharmacists, a lot of professionals feel the same way that we do. And to be honest, I didn't even know that I was doing it. I had no idea that I was judging myself to that extent. In fact, my husband kept reminding me and saying, "What's wrong with you? Like, why would you say that to yourself?" And he even says to me all the time, like, "Would you advise that to me if I said that to you? Would you tell me the same thing, what you're telling yourself?" And I'm like, obviously not.
Yeah. Obviously, we're not
And it sounds so
the
obvious.
same. And they're like, would you say that to me? And I'm like, no. Okay, so why are you saying it to yourself? And I caught
I
myself
know.
the other day giving someone close to me some advice, and I was in a very similar position myself. And I was like, so exactly what I'm telling you, if I tell myself the opposite, I'm basically saying to you what I'm telling you is completely wrong and I'm just being nice. When I'm not, I'm telling them the complete truth. And then it's kind of that moment where you're like, okay, so why am I saying this all to myself? You just need to think, I mean, a lot of the time it's not valid, it's not right. But obviously the way that you feel towards it, your emotions are so real. But it's just realizing that you're just being so hypercritical of yourself, and you don't need to always put that pressure on yourself. Like, it's okay to slow down, and it's okay to be happy and enjoy a few little things. Like, you don't have to constantly be so productive and so immersed in trying to get things done in this constant rat race where you're trying to be better than the next person. But what is better? Like, better doesn't necessarily mean productive. If you're thoroughly unhappy and you wake up in the morning feeling like crying, or you're driving home from work crying, is that better? Because to me, that doesn't seem like it's worth it. And I spent a lot of time reflecting on that, and realizing that sometimes productivity and what you're doing in your work, it's not the most important thing. And I think there's a massive,
Yeah.
especially, I guess, the American dream kind of culture vibe. And the pandemic as well has really shown that to people, that there's more to life than going out and spending money and being flashy and going to work and being the big superstar, because fundamentally what matters is the people around you.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting that you've gained such insight into who you are. And I think that's obviously had quite a big impact when you are faced with a patient, because you are so much more compassionate towards yourself, and you're demonstrating that compassion to someone else. And that makes you feel that's where that reward comes from. And that's where, community pharmacy is a good place to be if you enjoy connecting with other people like I do. And it seems like you've definitely found something that you can enjoy. And maybe it's not for you forever. Maybe you'll do it for a few years and enjoy it, but then you need a new challenge,
Yeah.
or you want to learn a new skill. And personally, that I've worked in lots of different areas, and I've enjoyed all the different experiences, starting off in hospital, going to do emergency services and being part of the Formula One team, then going to work for another American hospital in Abu Dhabi and experiencing something like a brand new hospital opening and setting up all those services and getting clinics up and running. Obviously working in another culture with another language, it was very, very different. And then becoming a parent obviously changed my life and turned things around. And then coming home and thinking, oh, what am I going to do now? Went into education and training as a pre-reg director, and then found my passion for pediatrics, which is where I'm at now. And it is doable. It is completely doable. You don't have to be a superstar pharmacist to do what I've done. You just need to have dedication. You need to have a bit of passion and enthusiasm, and you just need to love learning and trying things new. And from your initial conversation about, I guess, what Boots has taught you in the last few months, it seems like you've got some interest in service improvement and the kind of business aspect of working in a community pharmacy. So this is something that potentially you could definitely explore and get involved with as you develop, in the start of your career, and actually find out, well, actually, yeah, do I like this? Let's spend a year trying it out and seeing how much I enjoy it, gain some new skills. And if I don't like it, I'll move on.
Yeah.
Because pharmacy is that good that you can try something for 1 or 2 years. And if you don't like it, or you feel like, yeah, I've tried it, but now I want to do something else, you can.
Yeah.
Like, you totally can. And the variety that we have in our jobs, and even in my job, I have so much variety, even now in one role. I'm doing education for KCL. I'm a pediatric pharmacist in palliative care. I'm managing formulary. I'm on the wards. I'm training pre-regs. Like, there's endless amounts of variety in the job. So you can never get bored. So it's good that you've kind of discovered that early on in your training year, and maybe that's changed your perception of what pharmacy has to offer.